Next, from Springfield, we head to the state capitol for a rally in which legislators and education officials call on the state to pass a budget to fund higher education and MAP grants. This runs about 40 minutes.
The Federation of Independent Illinois Colleges and Universities here represent all the private institutions in the state, but I'm here today as a member of the Illinois Coalition to Invest in Higher Education. For those of you that don't know what the coalition is, it's a group of public, private, community college, business leaders, students, members of labor, mayors, a large cross-section, frankly, of your neighbors throughout the state who know that we have to find a solution to fund higher education, both operationally for the public institutions and first and foremost for our students who are recipients of MAP grants. To that end, in the next few days, legislators will be receiving a document that we've prepared, and we can get everyone in here a copy of this. It's called the Cost of Crisis, and it details the damage being done in higher education right now. It's important to understand that 1/6 of the Illinois population is directly affected. Indirectly, I'd argue every citizen is. But if you look at the 800,000 students, the 175,000 employees, the families, the networks connected to higher ed, it's a huge economic engine in the state. And in fact, if we continue to derail funding for higher education, I think that's the future of our state. It'll be derailed also. So we've talked a little bit over the last 18 to 19 months about the pain being caused by the budget impasse, and we've predicted some things would happen. Unfortunately, they're starting to happen. People are moving out of the state. Illinois is hemorrhaging students from our state to other states. And in fact, because we don't have a budget for higher education, we're actually putting incentives in place for students to leave our state, many of them never to return. And this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Other states are now pouncing on our students, taking advantage, coming in, recruiting more heavily. In fact, in the last 48 hours, 3 states that are close to Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Indiana, their governors have announced additional investments in higher education, and every one of those governors said, we're doing it because the economic vitality of the state depends on an educated workforce. We need to do the same thing here. Lastly, before I introduce some other speakers, we know the General Assembly and the governor can work together to get things done, and in fact, in the last year, the legislature has passed incentives to keep businesses in the state. We're doing exactly the opposite for something that really dwarfs most of the businesses we talk about, and that's higher education. It has a tragic effect on the students who are unable to go, also on all the communities. Think about higher education and the footprint of higher ed across the state. Everywhere you look, higher ed, changing lives, and when a student benefits, the state benefits. So again, thank you for all being here this afternoon. And if I could introduce Tom Cross, who's the chairman of the Board of Higher Education, for a few remarks.
Hello. I want to make one observation, and if you are a faculty member, if you're a president, if you're a parent, or if you're a student, thank you for being here today. It's not easy to leave your schoolwork, your job, your school, your home, especially on a nasty day, but to come to Springfield is very important. What you do, what you say, being here does matter. This is about you. This is about our state, and the fact that you took the time to be here and are concerned enough to be here is very, very important. And you should give yourselves a round of applause. It's very good that you're here today. Thank you very, very much. I'm here not only as the chair of the Board of Higher Education, but I'm a citizen or resident of the state of Illinois. And historically, Illinois has been known as a state with an excellent higher education system. We've had a very, very strong education system at the level above high school, and we want that to continue. And you think about it, and Dave alluded to this, all of the tentacles that higher education touches, not just you as students, faculty members, administrators, presidents, the towns in which your universities or schools are located, the surrounding communities, what it means for research in this state, what it means for workforce. The tentacles go everywhere, and it's imperative and it's important that we have a strong higher education system in the state of Illinois if we are going to be competitive as a state and we're going to have a strong workforce. Yes, thank you. I'm going to join everybody up here today in being very forceful and being very strong and emphasizing we need a budget. There's absolutely no question about it. We can't continue the way it is, but there have been some good things going on in the state of Illinois despite the bump in the road that we're going through and that we're experiencing, and we don't want to lose sight of it. I think about the university presidents at both the public and the private institutions. Some of them are here today who've had to make some tough decisions. They've had layoffs, they've made sacrifices, they've had to reprioritize programs, but at the end of the day, they've kept their schools open with one goal in mind: what is the best for our students here in the state of Illinois, ensuring they have success. They're to be commended for that. Schools like ISU, Governor State, are actually seeing enrollment go up. The University of Illinois told us a couple weeks ago that they want to see enrollment rise by 15%, another positive thing in higher ed right now in the state of Illinois. We're also seeing a higher number of kids graduate from high school. We're seeing a higher number relative to the rest of the country complete their two-year degrees at community colleges. I also think because of this impasse, we've seen a better cooperation and better collaboration between the K-12 level and the higher education community, something that needed to happen. And then the last thing that I think is important, and I think it shows his commitment to higher education. The governor has recently appointed 34 new people to the Board of Trustees, showing his commitment. You look at those names and you go through the list of those 34 people, starting with someone like Paul Vallis. It shows his commitment to diversity and making sure that this state is committed, and these boards of trustees are committing to having the very best possible higher education system we can in the country. So, as I close, there's no question, as I said early on, I share what Dave said, I share what others are going to say. If we're going to be strong, if we're going to have a great workforce, if we want good research, if we want strong economies, if we want our community strong, our students succeeding, we need to pass a budget. And tonight, and it's not a matter of passing a budget next fall, the next year. It needs to happen today or in the next few days. So, my last comment, and this is a personal mission of mine since I've become on the chair of the Board of Education. We need to refocus how we handle MAP. The MAP program is very, very critical for thousands and thousands of kids. In the year 2000, we were able to take care of every student's need who qualified for MAP. That was about I'm not sure what the number was, but anybody that qualified, we took care of them. Today, in 2017, we're lucky if we can take care of a little over a third. That's wrong. So not only do we need to pass a MAP funding bill, we need to increase what we have in the MAP fund. And that's something we should talk about today. Thank you all again for being here, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Tom. By the way, Illinois Wesleyan grad, go Titans. Tom brought up MAP. How many MAP students do we have here today? Speaking of MAP, Eric Zarnico from the Illinois Student Assistance Commission is here, and he is the guru and knows everything about the program, and he's been great. Eric, you want to say a few words?
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. The Student Assistance Commission has seen MAP make college possible for students in Illinois for almost 50 years. So MAP is a program that provides access to college for low-income students that can't otherwise afford it, and most of those students are actually first-generation students. And despite those challenges of low-income first generation, we see that MAP recipients graduated about the same rate as their peers. So we know that MAP works. Historically, MAP has given students certainty that has really helped them plan to go to college, plan their budget, plan their lives. But now we've we're almost 2 years into a lack of a budget, and that makes things very difficult. So what had been a certain process has become very uncertain for students. And it's uncertain for schools as well, and it's really affecting the outcomes out there. So colleges are struggling to come up with the funds needed to support MAP recipients as they wait for payments from the state. For students that are relying on MAP funding, the challenges are very real. So what do students tell us? They tell us that they're unsure whether they should stay in school because they're afraid they might end up footing the bill for a grant that they can't afford in the first place. They're getting the grant because they can't afford to pay for it. They tell us they're working more hours. They tell us that they're taking fewer classes, that they're borrowing more money. In some cases, they're transferring out of state, or worst of all, they're dropping out of school. So for some of the students that are least able financially, financial aid has sort of been turned on its head. They're essentially being asked to front the money for the state. So what we risk with this ongoing delay is a large group of students who may opt out of higher education entirely. And what I'm most afraid of is seeing students who drop out of school but have student loan debt. So they're in the worst place possible. They have debt but no degree. But I do feel like there's hope. For 5 decades, MAP has had ongoing bipartisan support. Every budget that has been proposed has included MAP funding, and we know that MAP has broad support in the General Assembly and also with the governor. So the fact is, the people that are in this building agree that MAP, in fact, does matter and MAP does work. So that makes it particularly frustrating that we don't have funding yet for MAP. I know that there's a lot of MAP recipients here today. You'll have a chance to tell your stories to your legislators, but I want to close with a comment from a MAP recipient that we received. And the comment is, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm spending a lot of time reducing expenses, not to invest in things, but instead cutting out things that result in added burdens or decrease the quality of life. So could I work more? Sure, if I could sleep less than 5 hours a day that I get now. Could I switch to a cheaper school? Only if I wanted to add 2 more years to my time to graduation because my upper level science classes won't transfer. Could I have planned for this as a student? Well, when I signed a lease and signed up for classes a year ago, or when I picked my college 3 years ago, should I have expected that the aid that I was awarded wouldn't actually be paid? I thought that was a very poignant comment from a MAP recipient. So I'm hopeful that all of your efforts here today will help students like this one achieve their dream of improving their lives through higher education. The investment in MAP is critical to the future of Illinois, and I want to thank you all for being here today to support that investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And of course, I think the reason that we are all here today, it's about students and their opportunities, or in the current situation, lack of opportunities to pursue a higher education. I have 2 students here that have unique stories. If you'd come up, Tommy, Sasha, could you come up, please? All the way up. These 2 students are representative of a lot of MAP students throughout the state. I wanted them to each tell a quick story about how financial aid has impacted their ability to go to college, and the cuts. Tommy's at Illinois College, which is a private institution in Jacksonville. This young lady's at University of Illinois. You've heard of that, a large public. So different challenges, but essentially the unfunding of higher education has had permeations for every student in the state, frankly, whether they receive a MAP grant or not. Tommy, would you say a few words?
Thanks, Dave. First off, I wanted to thank Dave Treader and the rest of the coalition for granting me this opportunity to speak today, to share my story. As he said, my name is Tommy Lewis. I'm currently attending Illinois College, not too far from here, about 40 minutes west in Jacksonville, Illinois. And my story with MAP is pretty simple, so I'll keep it short. I originally left Illinois coming out of high school and attended the University of Kansas. I had a twin brother, Andy, who's actually here today, and he attended Illinois College first. And one day we were comparing prices because while we were in high school, we figured the cost of college would come out to be about equal for us. And it turned out he was paying a few $1,000s less a year than I was. And we were perplexed for a little bit. Why was this? We did not take into account the MAP grant when we originally calculated the cost of college. Quite simply, the MAP grant was the greatest single factor that brought my educational experience and my money back to Illinois. I transferred back in-state 1 semester after leaving and choosing out of state. MAP was the reason why. And I know I'm not alone in this struggle. We've talked about a lot today, the perils that go with losing in-state talent to the surrounding states that are recruiting students like me. I don't think we can stop incentivizing Illinois students to stay in-state. That's all I have to say today. Again, I want to thank Dave and the coalition.
Hi everybody, I'm Trisha. I'm a junior at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I come from a working class background. I'm from Belvedere, Illinois, which is about 3 hours north. And just like so many students across Illinois, my family just doesn't have enough money to be able to afford for me to go to school like the U of I. And I worked so hard throughout high school. I went above and beyond so that I could go to such a great public university like the University of Illinois. And because of the worries from the MAP grant crisis, I've had to take on more hours of work, which means less time dedicated to my studies, less time dedicated to other extracurriculars that help me develop as a person and as a professional. And I would just like to urge our legislators to fund MAP grants because so many students across Illinois depend on it to make their education possible and to pursue their dreams. Thanks a lot.
Thank you both. Part of the reason that you come to Springfield is to talk to your elected leaders, apply pressure, try to find a solution. We have a couple at least that are brave enough to come up behind the microphone and say a few words. The first is Representative Kelly Burke, who has a unique relationship to higher education. I'll let her tell you that, but she is currently the chair of House Higher Ed Appropriations. Kelly?
Thank you and good afternoon. Thanks to you all for making it down today. I came down this morning and was white-knuckling it all the way from Bloomington to Springfield. So I'm sure many of you were in the same situation. So thank you for putting your life in your hands and making it down here. It shows that you're dedicated. It shows how much getting a good quality college education means to you. And as Dave explained, I do have some connection to higher ed other than being the higher ed chairman. First of all, I'm a graduate of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Was lucky enough to attend there for 4 years at a time when the public realized that investing in higher education was good for our society. It produced people who were highly educated, who gave back, who came into the Illinois workforce and tried to really make a difference. So I'm proud to be an alum, proud to be an Illini, and very thankful for the people who helped me get that education. I'm also, for a time I worked at St. Xavier University, so I know there's a St. Xavier crowd here, go Cougars. And I actually represent St. Xavier University as well. And I'm an adjunct faculty member at Loyola University, if we got any ramblers here. So I've seen higher education from a couple different fronts. And while I'm heartened to hear Chairman Cross say that we should invest more in MAP funding, I completely am on board with that. The MAP program is fantastic and it has helped so many people get through college, and it's helped so many students stay in Illinois and live in Illinois after graduation. It's a great program. But as for a budget, we don't want just any budget. We want a budget that restores funding to our public universities and our community colleges. Over the past 2 years, the universities and community colleges have lost almost $1 billion in funding. That has been borne out. Some of you who go to the public colleges and the community colleges are seeing it. You've got reduction in classes. You've had many staff members who've been laid off, and some of the services they've provided are no longer available to you. You might even see it in the towns where you live, in Charleston or Macomb, that maybe they're not as robust as they were when you first started. Those cuts have consequences, and what we need is to have that money fully restored so that our universities are robust and thriving, and people want to come here and people want to stay here. So what I would urge you guys to do is, as you go around today, make sure you give that message to your legislators. Give them your personal story. But also when you get back to school, talk to your fellow students. You know, you guys obviously are very passionate and enthusiastic about this issue, but you probably know some of your students who don't even, some of your fellow students who don't even realize what's going on. You're the best ambassadors to make the case for why we need publicly supported colleges and universities in Illinois. So thank you so much for coming here today. Thanks for your advocacy. It's been really helpful, and I look forward to seeing you around the Capitol. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Burke. Much appreciated. Also with us here is the newly minted chairman of the House Higher Education Committee, Representative Chris Welch. And, you know, I've got it on my sheet here, so I have to call him out. Chris is a graduate of Northwestern and John Marshall. So there's a couple of John Marshall Law School grads right next to each other. Chris, could you come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, I was told that this is a rally to save higher education. Is this a rally to save higher education? Well, let's save higher education. Let's save our schools. Let's save MAP grants. Let's make sure before you leave here today, the second floor knows that we want to save higher education in this state. As Dave said, my name is Chris Welch. I'm the state representative from the 7th District, the home of Dominican University, the home of Concordia University. We care about colleges and universities. My district is the home of Triton Community College. You know, community colleges and our institutions of higher learning are so important to what goes on with the Illinois economy. We have to care about saving higher education. If we don't, we'll never recover from what's happened the last 2 years here in the state of Illinois. You know, when we invest in higher education, people stay in the state of Illinois. When we invest in higher education, people get better paying jobs. People can stay here and raise their families. They can buy homes. It makes good economic sense. What's happened here the last 2 years is just horrific. And we need to make sure, before you leave here today, all of you go to the second floor. That's where the governor's office is. It's right above me. And make sure the governor hears your voice. Your voice really does matter. Let the governor know that you are here, that you drove down here in a snowstorm, cross ice patches, because we're trying to save higher education in this state. This is a rally. Repeat after me. Save higher education. Save our schools. Save MAP grants. MAP matters. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Representative. As part of that effort to save MAP grants, we've talked about MAP grants, we've talked about the pain to public institutions, and I can't think of a better spokesperson on the issue of how the funding cuts have played out on public university campuses, the president of Western Illinois University, Jack Thomas.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jack Thomas, president of Western Illinois University, and I have with me Ms. Kathy Early, chair of the board at Western Illinois University. Let me begin my remarks by offering my appreciation to the legislators and the Illinois Board of Higher Education, Chairman Tom Cross, for their leadership and support of higher education. I also appreciate the cooperation and willingness of all the groups who have gathered here today to show your support for higher education. Give yourselves a round of applause. You may ask me today, why is education important? Well, there's a direct correlation between level of education attained, employment opportunities, and earning potential. Clearly, higher education is a driver of personal and economic prosperity. The more education one receives, the more likely one will have a satisfying career and earn higher wages. Do you believe that? Okay, let's give us a round of applause. Do you believe that? All right. So students, we want you to keep working hard and complete your education at your various institutions. But what return does the state receive for investing in higher education? Not only does the state receive a skilled workforce that can help attract and retain businesses to our great state, but also education raises the collective educational level of its citizens. This, in turn, improves the general welfare of the state of Illinois. Today's graduate of higher education translates into tomorrow's tax-paying citizens. There are over 1 million public university alumni living in the state of Illinois. And we are here so that we may voice our concern. We acknowledge the challenges faced by legislators in attempting to solve the state of Illinois financial struggles. We stand ready for shared sacrifice, but the sacrifice must be shared, and the entire burden must not be placed on the Illinois citizens who look towards public higher education as the great equalizer. I'm very optimistic about the role higher education plays in the economic recovery of our state. Our mission of quality education, access, and affordability to the citizens of Illinois continues despite the challenges of the current budget impasse. We respectfully ask to be reimbursed for FY16 appropriations. And we expect to have adequate FY17 funding that will allow us to continue our mission of educating the state's greatest access, our students and the citizens of this great state of Illinois. We do not have to make higher education great again. Despite reduced state funding and other impediments, we have remained great. I proclaim today, if we stay strong and together, we will rise up to higher heights. We are resilient. We are relentless. We are the future of Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you, President Thomas. He's not on our agenda, but this is a gentleman who's been very vocal for 3 or 4 years about the need to find a sustainable funding for higher education, MAP grants. State Treasurer Mike Frerichs.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here today advocating on behalf of higher education. You know, it wasn't that long ago I heard a speech here in this Capitol, someone saying that they had increased education funding in the last 2 years. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that education ends at 12th grade. I think we want lifelong learners here in the state of Illinois, and if we want to grow our economy, we need to make sure that all of our students have access to higher education. My name is Mike Frericks. I'm the Illinois State Treasurer. I'm the Chief Investment Officer for the state of Illinois, and I can tell you there is no greater investment the state can make than investing in the education of our young people. But for these last 2 years, we've seen a systematic defunding of higher education. And people have said that we need to grow our economy to get out of this. That we need reforms to grow our economy. We can't tax our way out of it. And I tend to agree with that. But I think that if you want to grow our economy, there is no better investment you can make than helping people get a college degree. So let that be your message. These politicians will tell you they want to create jobs. I encourage you to look at these bracelets. Higher education creates jobs. Higher education creates jobs. Higher education is the way we're going to grow this economy. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Treasurer. Let me adjust the mic down about 3 feet. Anybody here from Joliet? Anybody? Yeah, two people. Well, we got the senator from Joliet, Senator Pat McGuire. Pat, Chairman of Senate Higher Ed.
Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon. As Dave Treader said, I'm Pat McGuire, State Senator from the 43rd District, Joliet, Bolingbrook, 7 other communities, and I have the honor of chairing the Senate Higher Education Committee. I am glad to see so many of you again. I emphasize again. I know for many of you this is not your first trip to our state capitol to advocate for funding for higher education. Your persistence is having an effect. I'm sure you have heard that in the Senate there is a bipartisan compromise which has been negotiated by the Democratic Senate President John Cullerton and the Republican Senate leader Christine Rodogno. Again, a bipartisan compromise to end the budget impasse which has hurt your lives and your schools and our state. It's called the Grand Bargain. It's a package of 12 bills. One of those 12 bills would send to MAP grantees, community colleges, and our 9 public universities $1.1 billion. It would fund MAP grants, community colleges, and public universities at the same level as the last time we had a budget, 2 painful years ago, fiscal year 2015. That's a good deal, isn't it? That means the state would again invest in you and higher education in the state of Illinois. So, here's what I want you to say. Please repeat after me. Pass the grand bargain. Pass the grand bargain. To pass the grand bargain, we need the support of the governor. He's on the 2nd floor. And we need the support of senators who are on the 3rd floor. So raise your voices. You got to get them up to the 2nd and the 3rd floor. Again, pass the grand bargain. You can do better. Pass the grand bargain. Hurt my ears. Pass the grand bargain. Thank you.